Hello, this is Curtis, and this is my video for my 4-week Fall 2018 Vision Tech Individual Project. Now for this project, I chose to use a Raspberry Pi 3 along with the basic operating system of RetroPie and Emulation Station to create a portable handheld gaming console. Said console would eventually look like this right here. Now I'm using this site by Rasmuschild, or however you pronounce that name, which he was the original creator of this specific design, which uses a 3D printed case and buttons. Now on this site, you can scroll down and there's a list of parts here, which I ordered all these different parts. However, the one thing I did not order was this screen, which it says it was no longer available. So I had to find a different screen that was compatible with the Pi. So the case was the main reason I chose this creation, which you can see the case right here. It's got your basic buttons, back button, back of the case, and front of the case. Now the reason they are split in two is because the printer I was using at the time was not large enough to print one piece entirely, so I had to split them in half and then later glue them together. Another issue I wrote that came with the case was that the screen that I chose was too large for the case itself. So I had to make a few minor adjustments on the inside of the case in order to accommodate the size of screen I had. Now, the technical side of RetroPie included a bunch of different coding, the installation of a driver which would force feed into a small touchscreen instead of a large monitor, since I wanted to make this portable. Other than that, the installation of ROM through Emulation Station came from this website called Emulator Games, which, as you can see, has a bunch of different gaming consoles listed, and these are all gaming emulators. An emulator, it allows a device to play a specific type of console game by emulating how that system works. So as you can see, I can go into Game Boy Advanced, for example, and it will have a bunch of different ROM, which ROMs use Emulation Station as a support to work on. Now, out of these ROMs, I chose countless to put on my device, such as Pokemon, Mario, and others, and they all worked onto Emulation Station after I inputted button input, which that includes like up, down, left, right, jump, all the basic actions. Now this is what it looked like on the small screen with Emulation Station running. As you can see, you have different options here. If you would select Game Boy, for example, it would drop down into a list of Game Boy games. If you go to Game Boy Advance, click on it, it would do the same thing. Clicking on RetroPie brings you to options and settings for the device itself. Now you can't really see it in this picture, but the screen I'm using uses the GPIO pins of the Pi, which is the basic general input pins of the Pi, and just slides directly on top of it. That was the main issue I had with my final product, which my final product did not turn out the way I intended it to. The parts I had were not quite right for the situation I needed them for. So as you can see, this is kind of my work area in the end. You got the Pi here, the screen here. This breadboard and a bunch of wires is supposed to be the front button. These are the back. This here is a speaker. This is a power adapter, pretty much. What happens with that is it has a micro USB port on the end, which you plug into a basic standard outlet. And this black part right here would connect up to the lithium ion battery, which would then cause it to charge and then retain a charge. Then down here you have a audio amplifier, which does exactly what it intends to do, and basic power switch, which originally in the design this was an audio switch and the power switch was over here. However, the power switch chosen would have taken up roughly this amount of space on the inside and would not have fit in the main case. So overall, the project did not quite finalize the way I was hoping. Plans for the future on this are to get a different screen that allows use of the GPIO pins. Now, as you can see, there are some GPIO pins on the screen here, and you might wonder, why can't I use those pins? The issue with those pins is that no matter where I looked, I couldn't find a specific diagram of what number pins they are. Now, it does start with 1 here, but there's also other things over here with other numbers. So, my issue was I couldn't figure out which pin went to which function, which is extremely important when working with the Pi. So, overall, project wasn't fully how I hoped it turned out. Kind of felt thrown together at the wiring and physical build of the construction. The technical part of it with installing the ROMs, getting RetroPie working, that was a lot of fun and much simpler in my mind to work out. But still, without the physical aspect of the build working, the final product is still incomplete, which again is supposed to be like this. This source did have wiring diagrams, but you can see in pictures down here, his screen did not attach directly on top of the Pi. Another issue I had was the buttons and the breadboards. In redoing this, I'm going to take, instead of breadboards and touch buttons on top, I will be taking touch circuit boards about the same size and putting under it, which will allow for more direct contact and more sophisticated button pressing. So that was my project for fall 2018. It included Raspberry Pi aspects, 3D printing aspect, and wiring aspects, most of which I've had a bit of background behind, but this mainly brought them all together and in ways that I've never done before. So overall, it was a fun project. I am definitely going to be finishing the final console in due time, but as of now, it is incomplete. But the learning I've obtained from this has been irreplaceable.